Good evening, good evening, good evening. How's everybody doing, man? All right, let's get this going here. All right, beautiful people, wonderful world. Hey, Deborah. Greetings, Tennis. How are you? All right, all right, all right. Let's get situated. Let's get started. Let's get rolling and rocking. We got some information to share tonight. We're going to go deep and we're going to celebrate, you know, we're going to celebrate us, you know. We're going to celebrate today being the last day of Black History or Black History Month, as they gave us. That's what they assigned to us, but we know we're black 24/7, you know? Yeah, we're black 24/7. So, I need you guys to do me a great favor and share this video for me, please. Go ahead and share this live. And as I welcome everybody, we're going to dive deep. We're going to look into some really cool stuff, some great information that's very, very educational, very necessary in this time, all right, for us and our posterity, right? Because our children need to know certain things about us. You know what I mean? They're getting pumped with all kind of information left and right. I'm not saying it's not necessary, but they need to know about themselves more than they do about other people, right? All right, without further ado, let's get the ball rolling. So, as always, I need to let out my disclaimer. You guys know I'm not a doctor. I keep telling you, even if some people call me Dr. Brown, I am not a doctor, okay? I'm not a medical professional either. I'm just a simple herbalist, a health educator, and a researcher. I do not prescribe medicine, nor do I give medical advice. My work is strictly professional and educational. All right, that's the purpose of my work. Okay, so if you are tuning on YouTube over there and Facebook, welcome. Appreciate you joining me. And tonight we are going to talk about Black contribution to medicine. Black contribution to medicine. Right? So in honor of Black History Month, like I said, and today's the last day. We're gonna discover and deep take a deep dive deep into and talk about Black doctors, physicians, and so forth in the medical field who have contributed tremendously to the world of medicine. That I believe that we should take it upon ourselves. It should be our responsibility to know these things and to teach our children about the contributions that the health contributions that the Black doctors have made to the world. Okay, and they've never been recognized for the contribution when it comes to ancient or even modern medicine. Okay, and those contributions that they made have never been taught to Black people in any school at any level, right? In any school at any level. All right, so let's jump into it. First thing I want to tackle is just a few statistics, real short. I'm gonna deal with the statistics and get them out the way. It's real short. That's the short version of the lecture, and I'm gonna tackle it right now. So, in 2017, all right, 2017, and before I even jump into that, I hope you guys are doing great and your families are well, okay? I hope your families are well and you guys are staying safe. We know it's really tough out there, so take care of yourselves, be careful. All right? So in in 2017, all right, black doctors only made up about 7.5% of the United States physician workforce. Let that sink in for a moment, all right? 2017 was just 5 years ago. Only 7.5% of physicians in the workforce in the United States that were black. All right? 5 years ago. So in April 21st, right, 2021, the US News published a news article originating from Health the News, where the headline read, and that's the headline, it read, "Little progress in boosting numbers of black American doctors. The percentage of US doctors who are black has barely risen in the past 120 years." And that was they're talking about 1900. Since 1900 to 2021. The percentage of United States doctors who are black has barely risen in the past 120 years. And there's still a wide pay gap between white and black physicians, a new study finds. So the analysis of United States Census Bureau data from 1900 to 2018 included about 150,000 physicians, 150,000 physicians with only about, and that's a study, okay? And that was US News published that article in April of last year. Out of 150,000 physicians, there were only about 3,300 black male physicians and 1,600 black female physicians. The study findings demonstrate how slow progress has been and how far and fast we have to go if we really care about the diversity of the physician workforce and the health benefits of such diversity brings to patients, particularly minority patients, said Dr. Dan Lee, who authored the study. And he is an assistant professor of medicine at UCLA. All right, that's the University of California in Los Angeles. All right. In 1900, 120 years ago, 121 years, 22 years ago, almost 12% of the United States population was black in 1900. But there was only 1.3 out of that 12%, 1.3% of physicians were black. In 1940, nearly 10% of the population was black. So in 1900, the black population in the United States was 12%. 40 years later, the population was 10%. And when it was 12%, you have 1.3% of that 12 black physicians. 1940, the population was 10%, but less than 3% of physicians were black. Less than 3. So out of those 3%, Out of the less than 3%, 2.7% were men and 0.1% were women, the study found. Right? Very intriguing, right? So our children need to know this. We need to know it. And we need to pass the information along. So in 2018, about 13% of the United States population was black, but only 5.4% of physicians were black. Of those, 2.6% were men and 2.8% were women. You see, you guys see the disparity. You guys see that so far? You guys see the disparity? So after 120, 121 years, much has not changed for us. And black people have contributed tremendously to medicine, tremendously. And we're going to dive into it in a minute. The study also found that adjusted for inflation, the difference in median income between black and white male physicians was about $68,000 in 1960. In 1960, the median income between black and white male physicians was about $68,000. That pay disparity could be due to a combination of pay discrimination and unequal access for physicians to pursue careers in better paying medical specialties, he suggested. Among active physicians, 56.2% identified as white, 17.1% identified as Asian, 5.8% identified as Hispanic, and only 5% identified as black. Tell me something's not wrong. Tell me. Look me in the eye and tell me something's not wrong with that picture. So to honor and respect those who came before us, let's learn about some of our black medical doctors who made medical history. Okay? Greetings, everyone. Greetings. Blessed, blessed. Thank you guys for joining. Share the live if you will, please. Information needs to be out there, and people need to know about this. I am almost 61 years old, and I'm only now learning about this, what I'm about to divulge to you, what I'm about to break down to you. I'm almost 61, and I'm only now learning this. The first doctor we're going to talk about is James McCune Smith. James McCune Smith. He was the first African American to earn a medical degree and practice in the United States. In 1838, Dr. Smith opened a pharmacy on West Broadway Street in New York City. He became the first African American owned, or becoming rather, the first African American owned pharmacy. Okay? And he also used medicine and science to refute slavery's advocates in his writings. He used medicine, pay attention, he used medicine and science to refute slavery's advocates in his writings. So James McCune Smith was not just any physician, guys. He was the first African American to earn a medical degree, educated at the University of Glasgow in the 1930s, when no American university would admit him. For his groundbreaking achievement alone, Dr. Smith warrants greater appreciation But Dr. Smith was also one of the nation's leading abolitionists. Okay? You guys knew that? He was a leading abolitionist. In 1859, Frederick Douglass declared, "No man," and I quote, "no man in this country more thoroughly understands the whole struggle between freedom and slavery than does Dr. Smith. And his heart is as broad as his understanding." He was a prolific writer as well. Smith was not only the first African American to publish peer-reviewed articles in medical journals, he also wrote essays and gave lectures refuting pseudo-scientific claims of black inferiority and forecast the transformational impact African Americans were destined to make on world culture. Dr. Smith received his primary education at the African Free School No. 2 on Lower Manhattan's Mulberry Street. For those of you who live up there and you know where that is, it's the African Free School No. 2 on Lower Manhattan's Mulberry Street. All right. Next up, Rebecca Crumpler. Rebecca Crumpler. She became the first female African American medical doctor in 1864. Her official degree was Doctoress of Medicine. Doctoress of Medicine. She treated free slaves after the Civil War and published one of the first medical books written by an African American. One of the first, and I have a copy of it. This is the condensed version of the book. Okay, right here. That's after the Civil War. She published one of the first medical books written by an African American. She was a true pioneer. She battled deep-seated prejudice against women and African Americans in medicine. After earning her degree in Boston, she spent time in Richmond, Virginia, after the Civil War, caring for formerly enslaved people. In 1883, Dr. Crumpler published a book of medical discourses right here. This is the condensed version. And you could find this on Amazon for about $8. And then there is the paperback version, which I'm going to purchase in the future, but it costs about $200, maybe $350. Okay, and it's a book of medical discourses in 2 parts. And this just gives a little bit about her work, her history, and you could find this on Amazon for about $8. So it chronicles her experience as a doctor and provides guidance on maternal and child health. All right. Let's look at Danielle Hale Williams. Dr. Danielle Hale Williams. Never heard of these people. Pioneers in medicine. Never been taught about these people in school. Never heard of them. But information now is out there. The information has always been out there. You got to go find it. Danielle Hale Williams founded Chicago's Provident Hospital. If you live in Chicago or in the surrounding areas and you know of Provident Hospital, if you know of Provident Hospital, That was the country's first black-owned interracial hospital, and he founded that hospital in 1891, and he performed the first ever successful heart surgery 2 years later. 2 years later, he performed the first ever successful heart surgery 2 years after founding the first black-owned hospital in Chicago. That was the Provident Hospital. But due to the discrimination of the day, African American citizens were still barred from being admitted to the hospitals, and black doctors were refused staff positions. Firmly believing this needed to change, in May 1891, Dr. Williams opened Provident Hospital and Training School for Nurses. That's how determined he was. Nothing was stopping this guy. That was 1891. That was right after slavery was abolished. Somewhere about 1864, 1865. And that was only 1891. And these people I'm talking about, like right after slavery was abolished. So what are we doing now in 2022? If they had the guts, to do all this, all the odds were against them. Here we are today in 2022. What we do? Fuss and fight. Why? We need to get together. What's holding us back? What is stopping us, people? So in 1891, Dr. Williams opened Provident Hospital and Training School for Nurses, the nation's first hospital with a nursing and intern program that had a racially integrated staff. Huge. The facility where Dr. Williams worked as a surgeon, he was a surgeon, was publicly championed by famed abolitionist and writer Frederick Douglass, meaning that he wholeheartedly defended and supported Dr. Williams' vision. Next, Solomon Carter Fuller. Solomon Carter Fuller. He was born on August 11, 1872. That was right after slavery was abolished, guys. In 1872 in Monrovia, Liberia. He was born of African American parents in Liberia. He was the first black psychiatrist in the United States. His name is to be known. Solomon Carter Fuller. First black psychiatrist in the United States. He researched degenerative brain disorders with Dr. Alois Alzheimer. Or Alois, I hope I'm saying his name right. Alois Alzheimer. He researched degenerative brain disorders with Dr. Alzheimer while in medical school and became an authority on Alzheimer's disease research. Dr. Carter published the first comprehensive review of Alzheimer cases in 1912. 1912. That's more than 100 years ago. What's holding us back? You guys know who Alois Alzheimer is, right? All right. So he has been credited for discovering Alzheimer's disease. And this Solomon Carter Fuller first black psychiatrist in the United States. He researched degenerative brain disorders with Dr. Alzheimer. And Fuller, like the others, of course, he faced discrimination in the medical field in the form of unequal salaries and underemployment. But they had to move on. They had to face the challenges. They had to create ways to step over those barriers that held them back. Then we have Ernest E. Just. Ernest Just. He won the NAACP's inaugural Spingarn Medical for his research on fertilization and cell division in 1912. 1912. A Julius Rosenwald Fellowship in Biology of the National Research Council allowed him to work in Europe. He allowed him to work in Europe to avoid discrimination in the United States. What are we waiting on? That was 1912. He won the NAACP's inaugural Spingarn Medal, the gold medal awarded annually by the NAACP since 1915 to honor the man or woman of African descent. Then we have, I hope you guys are doing great, man. Hope you guys are doing great. Your families are safe. You guys are taking care of yourselves. Louis T. Wright. Louis T. Wright, Dr. Louis T. Wright, graduated 4th in his class at Harvard Medical School while serving in World War I. He developed the intradermal injection vaccination technique. In 1948, he became the first clinician to study the use of the drug Erythromycin. The drug Erythromycin in humans. And Erythromycin is an antibiotic for the treatment of bacterial, viral, and rickettsial diseases. Okay, and those are diseases that are infections that you can get from tick bites, certain tick bites. Rickettsial diseases. Jane C. Wright. Jane C. Wright was an oncologist and one of the pioneers of chemotherapy. And she was the daughter of Louis T. Wright, whom I just spoke about a minute ago. She was an oncologist. She was a pioneer of chemotherapy, man. How come we don't know about these people? How come we don't know about their contributions to medicine? How come? Because it's our story. And no one tells our story to us. So we must tell our story. You understand? It's incumbent on us to tell our story because it's ours. Dr. William Augustus Hinton, he developed Hinton test for diagnosing syphilis and published the first medical textbook by an African American. Charles R. Drew discovered that plasma can replace whole blood transfusions. I'm telling you guys, Dr. Charles Drew discovered that plasma can replace whole blood transfusions. He founded two of the first blood banks in America. Dr. Charles Drew founded two of the first blood banks in America, and is the first African American to earn a medical degree from Columbia University in 1940. Marilyn Hughes Gaston. Dr. Marilyn Hughes Gaston published a study of sickle cell anemia that led to a nationwide test for newborns. She was the first African American and female director of a public health bureau, which is the United States Department of Health and Human Services, the Bureau of Primary Health Care. Jocelyn Elders, Dr. Jocelyn Elders, you guys should know who she is. She was appointed by President Bill Clinton in 1993 as the Surgeon General of the United States, the first African American and the second woman to hold this post. And that's just in America. We haven't touched Africa yet. We haven't even touched Africa yet. And that's just a handful, guys. That's just a handful. What you got for me? Come on. Huh? Okay. All right. So, and that's just in America, or in the United States of America, right? And I would have to do an entire whole seminar just to touch on the doctors in Africa. But what I want to do, I want to talk about the father of medicine. And in Greece, they call him the god of medicine, because he was so bad. He was so awesome. Okay. The rest of this lecture is dedicated to Imhotep. And he was not a myth. Imhotep was real history. And the Greeks call him Emuthis. Imhotep was born more than 2,000 years before Christ happened. Imhotep was born, imagine that, more than 2,000 years. He was born in the 27th century, somewhere about there. 26th, 27th century, more than 2,000 years before Christ happened, in Memphis, Egypt. He was a vizier, a sage, an architect, astrologer, and chief minister to Djoser. And Djoser was the second king of Egypt's third dynasty. Share the light for me, guys. Imhotep, the real father of medicine. But there's a little twist to the story, and we'll get to that. So Imhotep is Imhotep, Imhotep. He was later worshipped as the god of medicine in Egypt and in Greece. And he was not a myth, he was real. He was real. He was identified with the Greek god of medicine, Asclepius. Imhotep's African name means he who comes in peace. He who comes in peace. He was a scientist, he was a scribe, he was a philosopher, he was an astronomer, a mathematician, architect, historian, and a doctor. Imhotep diagnosed and treated over 200 diseases. Over 200 diseases. 15 or of those 200 diseases, 15 of them of the abdomen, 11 diseases of the bladder, 10 of the rectum, 29 different diseases of the eyes, 18 of the skin, nails, and the tongue. He treated tuberculosis, gallstones, appendicitis, gout, and arthritis. And he also performed surgery. This guy was here 26, somewhere about 2,600 years before Christ happened. And he was real. There is evidence. Imhotep is the author of the Edwin Smith Papyrus. I need you guys to write this down. Is the Edwin Smith Papyrus. Edwin Smith Papyrus. Papyrus. And I need you guys to go look it up. Go on Amazon. Go on the internet. Look that up. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, which is an Egyptian medical text, which contains almost 100 anatomical terms and describes 48 injuries and their treatment. That document is the medical book of over 48 different surgical procedures written in exquisite detail. Okay, external surface of the brain, examination, diagnosis of the treatment of head injuries, fractures of the neck, collarbone, the skull, the nose and arms, as well as sores, cysts, sprains, and discolorations. That was 5,000 years ago. How don't we know? Why don't we know? Why aren't we being taught those things? So I must give thanks to Imhotep, because I wouldn't have been an herbalist if it weren't for Imhotep. I would not be here telling you this. I would not have known. And he used herbs 5,000 years ago. That's what he used to fix all those problems. He used herbs and barks and roots, and branches. Imhotep is still held in esteem by physicians who, like the eminent 19th century British practitioner Sir William Osler, and Sir William Osler considered Imhotep the first figure of a physician to stand out clearly from the mists of antiquity. That's how Sir William Osler considers Imhotep. But unfortunately, white supremacy and the system of racism have whitewashed Imhotep in history. In other words, racist scholars have made Imhotep white or non-African. However, Hippocrates gives credit to Imhotep in his oath, because Hippocrates studied Imhotep's work. But Hippocrates never called him by his African name. Rather, he called him by Greek name, Asclepius. Asclepius. So when you see, if you read anything about Hippocrates and you see the Greek name Asclepius, he is referring to Imhotep. Imhotep. All right? So we find in racist Western history books, Imhotep has been replaced with Asclepius and or Hippocrates. So if you do a search, you can do it now if you could, if you have another machine other than the one that you're watching me live and listening to me live. Just do a quick search, whether you use Google or DuckDuckGo, whatever search engine you use, and search for who is the father of medicine. And you are going to see Hippocrates pop up 9 out of 10 times before Imhotep pops up. But you have to go deep to find all this information. You have to search, and you got to research. And sometimes when it says Hippocrates, they really did mean Imhotep in reality. Okay? So it is too often forgotten that when the Europeans emerged and began to extend themselves into the broader world of Africa and Asia during the 15th and 16th centuries, they went on to colonize most of mankind. Don't forget that. But later they would colonize world scholarship, mainly the writing of history. History was then rewritten to show or imply that Europeans were the only creatures, or the only creators, rather, of what could be called a civilization. That was the implication. Nothing else mattered. No one else mattered. Even after they came and they found all this information. And they're telling us that our history started during slavery times. During slavery. But we weren't slaves. They took us from where we came from and brought us here to be slaves. We were never slaves. So remember that. We have a rich history. Very rich history, and our contribution to the modern civilization is vast, and it's grand, and it's real, and it's hidden. And a lot of it has been destroyed. A lot of it has been destroyed. And this is not hating anyone. This is bringing the truth forward. This is our story. We love us because everyone else hates the shit out of us. So we need to love us more. We need to be more accountable for what happens to us. We need to be more accountable for what we do to us and what we say to us. Everybody else is beating up on us. We should not be beating up on us. Come on. We have made great contributions to civilization. So all these physicians, the Black American physicians I just talked about, except for Dr. Elders, they were all physicians in the 1800s, man. They were born and practicing medicine in the 1800s. Slavery was abolished in the 1800s, man, in 1864, 65. Where did that knowledge come from? If we came out of Africa swinging on trees and we came here to work on a plantation and to build this country after 400 years, where did that knowledge come from? All of a sudden, where did it come from? Why were we so smart? Why were we able to invent all these things that we invented? We need to start thinking. You understand? We need to start thinking. Because we clog our minds with all this miseducation about ourselves. How is it that we came out of slavery and all of a sudden, boom, we invented everything, music, everything, man. Just name it. Black people invented everything, but just because we weren't able to own anything, we weren't able to claim ownership of anything, it was taken away from us by the slave master. You understand? So our contribution to civilizations is vast. And we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to ourselves to unite. We owe it to ourselves to start rekindling the fire of unity among us. We are more than what they make us believe to be. All right, I'm gonna leave it right there. I love you guys. I'm gonna keep teaching. Nothing stopping this. We're gonna know. We need to know. We should know, and we need to teach our children. We need to teach our posterity. They have to know these things. And again, there is no hatred in anything. Just because you love you more doesn't mean you hate someone else. You just love you more because everyone else is hating on you. You understand me? So you have to love you now. Don't hate yourself because everyone hates you. Love yourself. Love yourself, man. It's going to change your whole perspective on everything. It will change your perspective on life itself. Doors will open for you that otherwise would not have opened. Love yourself and respect each other's opinions. Who's calling me? Don't call me. I'm not live. All right. You guys take care of yourselves. Look out next week. We're going to jump back to some medicinal herbs. All right. And we'll keep moving. We'll keep the fire kindled. We'll keep it burning. Take care of yourselves. And don't forget, your health is your responsibility. All right? Take care, guys.